Thomas Mapfumo is like a combination between Jimi Hendrix and George Washington. That doesn't really work, but you'll see what I mean in a second. Talk about somebody who made an impact. Thomas Mapfumo invented a new type of music which defined his nation's musical sound, Zimbabwe. He used that music to overthrow the apartheid government of Rhodesia. And then, when the new government became corrupt, he used that music once again to call out the corruption and help overthrow the new government once they had lost their way. Years ago, my friend gave me this album called the Chimurenga Singles by Thomas Mapfumo and the Blacks Unlimited. Here's how long ago it was. He gave it to me on a CDR. Beautiful African guitar music, propulsive beats. I loved it right away, but I loved it even more once I learned the story of the man behind it. Born in 1945 in rural Rhodesia, which is now modern-day Zimbabwe, Mapfumo and some of the musicians he worked with decided to try to transpose the traditional music of the mbira, the thumb piano of the Shona people in Zimbabwe, and they decided to try to play it on a guitar. Mapfumo and his friends called their new music Chimurenga, which in Shona means struggle or revolution. In the late 70s, the white leader of Rhodesia, the Prime Minister Ian Smith, said that there would never be a black leader of Rhodesia for 1,000 years. Right after that, Thomas Mapfumo released a song called That's Just Mere Talk. So that's the kind of mindset he was in. He went to jail multiple times for speaking his mind, but he kept doing it, and the music he made was out of this world. Defying pressures from the white-controlled government of Rhodesia, they sang their music in their native Shona language, and they used it to protest against that government and eventually to overthrow them. Thomas Mapfumo sang the praises of a promising young revolutionary leader named Robert Mugabe, who was going to become the leader of this new country of Zimbabwe once they changed the name from Rhodesia. But fast forward to the late 1980s, and he's realizing that actually this guy Mugabe has some pretty serious problems. There's some financial corruption, there's lots of things that are troubling, and so he releases music that calls out the corruption. In fact, he releases an album called Corruption in 1989. In the end, the Mugabe government runs Thomas Mapfumo off and he has to seek refuge here in the United States, and he gets exile in Oregon. To this day, Thomas Mapfumo is still performing his music, still singing Chimurenga music, and still calling out corruption whenever he sees it. He was able to return to Zimbabwe back in 2018, but he's still troubled by the lack of democracy that he found there. So until next time, Dr. Tim out.